Thank you for holding it still, rise and shine. And with us in the studio today is someone who is in the best position to talk about this matter we've been discussing, bearing in mind his background. And I'll leave it to Otto Basi to take us to the guest.
Of course, we've been joined by Group Captain Ubo Tong. He is a veteran of the Nigerian Air Force. Of course, you would like to know that he holds several awards and honors from the Nigerian Air Force, the Royal Air Force UK, and the International Institute for Aerospace Survey, the Netherlands, amongst others. He has had quite loads of experience when it comes to intelligence. I'm talking about Group Captain.
Yeah, I would also like us to add before the group captain says something that he retired as a deputy director in the Defense Intelligence Agency. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. Just a correction, I was a Deputy Director Air Intelligence.
Intelligence.
And then that's Nigerian Air Force Headquarters.
Okay.
And then Director of Intelligence at the Defense Intelligence Agency.
Okay, sir.
Yes, thank you.
It means you've had quite a robust knowledge or a wealth of knowledge when it comes to security issues.
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay, let's start off with that. Why would you think, or why do we seem to have serious challenges with coping security issues in Nigeria? We're making, there have been movements from the government's angle, but not much is translated to the physical security we are desiring for.
Okay. First of all, when you want to understand security, when we talk about security, then security actually defines all the measures that are taken to assess, detect, deter, and eventually, or let me say ultimately, defeat threats to national security. After saying that, you find out that, one, when you trying to talk about implementation of effective security measures, it must start from threat assessment. What are the threats? And then you want to clearly define your interest. What constitutes the national interest and all that. So when the challenges facing Nigeria, because every year the government, the agencies like the Defense Intelligence Agency, they'll draw up a national threat estimate that will clearly indicate the likely challenges that are going to happen. But then it's now the issue of the political will, to take on those threats. Because now the threat, security threats to the nation, it's almost threat to life, to property and all. It's almost becoming limitless. And we find that the military are now involved in maintaining peace in almost about 35 states. I don't even know whether it has covered all the states now in the country. Without belaboring the issue, the challenge with Nigeria has always been, there's been the issue of religious sentiments that will undermine the political will for the government. President Jonathan tried to take on Boko Haram head-on, but you had even people had been ex-service chiefs and other leaders accusing him of waging a war against Muslims, and that actually handicapped the effort, because those issues would have been nipped in the bud. The people gathered, should I say, confidence to confront the military, and the police and all that, believing that nothing is going to be done. So there are other issues, and maybe as we go along, we will analyze a lot of them.
Well, I would like to follow up on that. You mentioned the political will by the government, and you also said that former President Goodluck Jonathan tried to, at some point, fight this, but it was besetted by religious sentiments. How would you rate President Buhari's effort in solving security issues?
Yes. President Buhari, he has the experience, and he's a very patriotic Nigerian. But I think he's handicapped by health and the lieutenants he had surrounding him. I worked with President Buhari, during the I was involved with that regime, and I know how patriotic he is. How, in fact, let me just mention an incident. Then we were having these Cameroonian incursions into the northeastern part of Nigeria. I went to visit, to investigate the issue. President Buhari actually went to the village that was attacked by the Cameroonians after a Nigerian army captain had flushed out the Cameroon. The man is very patriotic. But, when President Buhari came into government, if President Buhari had gone for interview to run a school, a principal of a school, they will not give him that job because of his health. But, it's not only in Nigeria anyway. Look at the challenges the United States are having with Biden. Most people knew Biden's age. Biden was already, sorry to say like that. There was a lot of things working against him because I fully couldn't remember so many. Presently now too, it's America has almost forfeited deterrence. Like even our own defense policy is predicated on deterrence. Usually it's supposed to be that it's only supposed when the deterrence fails, that's when we should resort to arms. And usually like Sun Tzu said, even the scripture also says like that wisdom is better than weapons of war. That's it says supreme excellence is defeating the enemy without having to fire a shot. That's Sun Tzu. So you find out that Buhari came in, he's not been well. And you found out that Obasanjo was a lot more successful because Obasanjo retained his health. And Obasanjo will not sign anything. I'm not joking. He will read through every document. He will even carry those documents. President Obasanjo would get tired. He will go out, play golf in the night and come back and continue to. But the current president, he's been beset with ill health, and most of the challenges, the decisions have come from his lieutenant. So, if it would be very unfair for me to, but actually the situation is assessed as deteriorating. The security situation under him.
Okay, sir, I would still dwell a bit on the absence of political will, and then I will look at the concept of looking at security and being hampered by the fact that the president's health is not optimally okay. And then I would mirror it a bit with your example of President Obasanjo. I believe that one of the hallmarks of a good leader is his ability to put together a good team. That means people who will make up his lieutenants. So we see President Buhari from when he came in retain the service chiefs and then rewarded them with ambassadorial positions by the time their tenure had elapsed. And then we've had this new set, and then we lost one of the service chiefs, as the former chief of army staff. And I am thinking, if there is the political will, although having health as a challenge, could he not have put together a team that could manage the situation even when with little supervision? That's on one hand. And then on the other hand, I would like to look at the Obasanjo approach. We still remember Zaki Ibiam and then OD in Bielsa, his approach and the military wiping out an entire community. Would you advise President Buhari to do the same thing?
Interesting. I think what President Obasanjo actually, with what he did, effectively established deterrence. It was expensive, and under a political, a civilian rule, it's almost unacceptable. But you find out that, okay, let me still go back to the international community. While Trump was president of the United States. The situation in Syria, I inherited that from Obama administration. Obama had put a red line that if the Syrians use chemical weapons, he would act, but he didn't. Those red lines. But when Trump came in, even by the time the Russians tried to insert themselves, confronting the Americans went in, killed over 200 Russians. And that was the end. The Russians never tried to stand against the American in Syria all through. It's deterrence. And in Nigeria, however, we found out that even because when you talk about threats, there are two aspects of threat. Okay, maybe I can say there are more than two aspects, because there's the perceived threat from perception and threat manifestation. We talk about perceived threats. That actually comes in, like when we do the threat, when the military, the security agents do the threat estimate, that helps informs us. Maybe it will guide training policy. It will guide the type of weapons that yes, should be procured and all that. And but then the threat manifestation is actually used, to secure favorable position in international negotiation, to restrain the behavior of opponents and all that. And in Nigeria too, we have not shown a willingness to use this aspect of threat in settling issues. I think the only case I could remember Nigeria did was during the Shagari administration, when 6 Nigerian soldiers were killed in Bakassi. I was part of the deployment. The Shagari administration deployed, the Air Force. We to Calabar with about 12 MiG-21 aircraft and BO-105 helicopter gunships. And the Army was mobilized, the Navy was mobilized. The threat was credible. Ahmadu Hijo was president of Cameroon. Immediately, because we started flying reconnaissance over Cameroon, he immediately accepted all the terms, apologized, but Nigeria did not follow up, because till then the boundary issue was not resolved. That boundary, the northeast boundary up to Bakassi, I mean, it was done by the British. And where the British had stopped around Benue State, that at the outbreak of World War II, that's where that boundary remained. Even after that favorable situation, Nigeria did not take advantage to demarcate that boundary up to the Bakassi area, which eventually resulted in our conceding. So, but the question you had asked, I mean, this issue of deterrence, what Obasanjo's approach, sometimes sometimes the president is forced to take that decision just to keep the situation from spiraling out of. There were other things Obasanjo did that personally I thought it was wrong, and most of the time you find out that Obasanjo had very capable lieutenants, especially in his second term, very capable lieutenants. And if you also remember, he was a person. You may not remember, during the war, he was the person that eventually liberated Akwa Ibom and ended the war.
Okay.
Yes, Adekunle had come, stopped at Ikodepene, and the war kept dragging. Stories came out that most of the time, if Biafra did not fire for some time, he would send people to investigate whether they don't have weapons again, and he would send weapons across just to keep the war because of his prestige. But the point is that so you remember that he's been a very courageous person, and he's almost inserted himself in almost all the activities. The 66 coup, he was almost like the one that resolved it, because he was the one that eventually convinced Nzogu to hand over and all that, to surrender. And but the point is that I was trying to say that there was some mistake he made. I mean, like the Bakassi issue, but that was also based because later on I saw the intelligence that made him take that decision. That's concede Bakassi. I mean, we lost we lost at the international court, but I mean, because we were obligated to implement. But the point was that we did not have to leave. We had over 300,000 Nigerians there. I mean, all he would have done would have just been, oh, that he will need 30 years to be able to develop the facilities to move out those people. And there's nothing. And then he would have even needs assistance of international community to help build houses and all that, resettle them. And that issue would have still have been there, you know, and then we would, he took a lot of courageous decisions that minimized and the other thing, I mentioned religious sentiments.
Sure.
When Jonathan came into power, for the first time, he appointed a Southerner as his national security advisor, NSA.
Okay.
And that has been so far, yes, the only Southerner to occupy that office. I remember when he was appointed, I went to his house in Lagos because we worked together in Defense Intelligence Agency. I actually retired 2003. So I saw him, I congratulated him, I told him, look, whatever, and he welcomed us and all that. But unfortunately, when he went in there, it became very difficult to have access to him because it was eventually, why I'm mentioning his name was that, like the NSA, no, I'm not tribalistic, so any people should not think that that's the issue. It has been run by the Northerners for a very long time. And when you talk about intelligence, it's a process. Information will come in. The final analysis, interpret, process, is going to be processed. And the final is what the person is going to get. And you do not rule out the sentiment of the analyst because he's a Nigerian. And sometimes too, especially religious sentiments and all that. So I was expecting that when he gets there, he would do a major overhaul and bring in people that were going to be able to help Jonathan in his, but he didn't do any of those things. He kept, he was just leaving this place as it was. Yes. So I wasn't surprised that most situations that Jonathan would have acted, he didn't act because maybe the intelligence concerning it was either watered down or it didn't even get to him. And even he was very, very highly qualified, very brilliant. I'm talking about Azazi. Very brilliant and very highly qualified. He had been the director of military intelligence, and even when he became and then he became chief of the army staff. He was also deputy director of deputy chief of defense intelligence. Very brilliant and very highly qualified, but he did not help the president because even himself, the information and the intelligence he would have gotten would also have been watered down, yes, and it slanted to prevent activity or mobility or even firm decisions.
Well, having such a wealth of knowledge and having worked with past administration, what would you say has been the major setback for this administration in achieving some landmark achievement in terms of security?
Okay, you recall how long it took President Buhari even to set up a cabinet. Yes, a long time. And by the time he also brought in those people, he didn't change them. Most people, a lot of people were agitating. Even, it's very sad. There's very little accountability. When you talk about the military, I mean, the decisions you take are so far-reaching. And the weapons at your disposal are, you go to a situation in Liberia. While I was in the DR, I found that there was over 700 soldiers who went to Liberia were still declared MIA, missing in action. And we did not follow, we've not done anything. The US is still pursuing, a closure on the deaths, also on missing Marines in a war that happened over 70 years ago. So, but the people that prosecuted the Liberian war, they came back, they were awarded national honors and all that. So the issue of accountability, even with this present war against insurgency, some of the time I see what happens and I feel very, very, very unhappy. the carnage of Nigerians, that's young people. Because I would say, how will a ragtag insurgents ambush and defeat a battalion of soldiers? So you find out that the actually it's a very sad commentary. You know, these things that should have been taken are not, lessons are not learned, people are not held accountable, responsible, because people should, I mean, people should go to prison.
So accountability is the measure setback for this administration.
I think it is part of it. And again, too, you know, when you talk about the insurgency, if you go back to France, in North Africa, you know, you find out that, okay, because when you even talk about security, you know, when I say delay, you know, in security, you know, that's part of the measures. You find out that even up till today, they'll say they're deploying soldiers. When you go to you look at what the French people did, France did in North Africa, they would build forts. And what does this fort do? They will be able to calculate how long it will take to breach this. So at least they'll know that before these forts are breached, you know, at least reinforcement would have arrived. Although in some cases they actually fell because they underestimated the capacity of the insurgents. But in you go, you visit the northeast, and you go and see, how do you go and put maybe a battalion, a company of soldiers, all what you have is barbed wires.
And trenches.
Yes, and trenches. It doesn't help. They really need to be able to move. We have the resources. I mean, if you are going to, I mean, be able to put significant installations that can actually I mean, even the attack, the insurgents, we know that their weapons, it's limited. I mean, they don't have armored vehicles. They mount guns on
Trucks.
yes, on all these
Hillocks.
and all that. So if you have proper fortification, they won't breach it. At least we will not be losing soldiers. And again, the other thing is intelligence. Yes, intelligence. Most of the time, it's not that the intelligence is not available, but sometimes it is not used. Yes.
Okay. So I will take it from your when you took snipers of the Civil War before Obasanjo came with his Third Marine Commando and rescued this part of the nation. There was Adekunle,
Yes.
and then you said it was there in some quarters it was believed that he would send weapons to the Biafrans to keep the war going for his perhaps personal gains, or maybe massaging his own ego, or whatever his reasons were. Would it not be...
And not losing his command.
and not losing his command. Would you not say the same may be taking place today? Whether we see the surges in defense spendings and all of that. You know, in some quarters, they say these generals do not want the war to end so that the defense budget keeps going up and they keep making more money. And then some people would even applaud President Yaradua for the amnesty program because the generals did not want that war to end. Do you think that might be playing out in the case of Boko Haram, banditry, and the overall security situation in Nigeria today?
Yes, it cannot be ruled out, actually, because you know, I remember a meeting we had. Then ago, he was the chief of defense staff, and the challenge was that the army was not paying their people certain allowances and all that. So he called this meeting, and I got there. I represented the defense intelligence in the meeting. So, you know, the Air Force was doing so well. You know, they were paying and all that. So, and you know, the army actually accused that the people were complaining because the Air Force were paying. Sorry, I don't want maybe some of my colleagues to misunderstand the point I'm trying to make, but the point I'm trying to make is this: it is actually unfortunate that, you know, the way they pay troops in the army, it's kind of because when you now make that the In the Air Force, the pay is centralized from the headquarters, wherever you are. You'll get your allowance, get your money. But the Army had a way of making these commanders in charge of the pay of the troops. So you now find situations whereby even, they can say they have 2 battalions, but the actual strength of the troops may not even be up to 1 battalion, and the pay would go. So really the financial issues are, and then you come and hear about troops. In fact, I want under my purview, when I was in DIA, was also the security of strategic installations, and the also the welfare of our troops deployed in all these foreign exercises. So I remember visiting Bakassi, and the person that was the commander there. Now, when I got there, they had lost a soldier, and he said he was going to bury. I just said, my friend, even if you are going to borrow money, because the morale of the people who were losing soldiers in Bakassi because of issues like, lack of potable water. You find troops carrying rowing boats to go and look for fresh water, and they might. And I remember one of the cases that we lost soldiers. So actually, the welfare of the troops and and then really making sure that the remunerations going to the soldiers are not hijacked by generals or their commanders. It's actually been an unfortunate and a common thing. So that's why I'm saying you can't rule it out, and it's a possibility.
Well, we'll put a pause to it here, and when we return, we'll be talking about the way forward for Nigeria, because we understand that we need a well-strategized plan to be able to conquer security issues in Nigeria, and that would happen after this time bound. Please stay with us.
Welcome back, and still with our guest, Group Captain Otong, retired, still discussing security. And of course, we know that we mentioned Nigeria today, we cannot overstate security. Very quickly, sir, I would like you to touch on state police. There has been agitation for state police. And then the governors have been saying, look, we are the chief security officers of our state by just word of mouth. We cannot take real actions because the forces within our domain still take orders from the federal. And there has been arguments pro and against the concept of state police. Could you just shed some light on that?
Yes, I think the issue of state police, the fear in most quarters has been that the government in power would use it against political opponents. But it doesn't really hold water, because um, even it's a possibility really, but then we're in a political regime, we're in a civil regime. Today is this party, tomorrow will be another party, and I will learn of it and get out of it. I mean, we adopted the American system of government, presidential, and with executive powers. There, um, there is the state police, even the National Guard. Yeah, in fact, the police is not just the issue of state. Every county have their own police. The police budget and all that, depending on their challenges. And even the National Guard is under the state government. So, and that's why, most states, like presently, look at this, this COVID era. Florida were able to take totally different steps, and they're doing so well. But in Nigeria, the centralization authority is not even going well for security. And I personally actually support the issue of state police. There must be the devolution of these powers. Yes, it is possible for the federal government to intervene, if there are excesses. So I personally support state police. In fact, please, there is even there was one correction I wanted or rather one impression I wanted to correct. Because the last time I was here, I was talking about the youth. And some people might have thought that I'm an advocate for recalcitrance, recalcitrance among youth, or recalcitrant youth, or youth violence. No, it is a national tragedy when you have youths who cannot stand for their right. A youth that cannot stand for his right, he will not stand for the right of any other person.
That's true.
Yes, he will. I mean, in fact, he will cowardly not be able to stand for the right of even his family members, not to talk about his community. So that is really the issue here, that that are youths. Because already now, the point is that you find some people are already agitating for military intervention. And that should not be the case. If you have youths that are active, look at Azikiwe and Awo. When they got into the struggle for independence, these were very young people. Even their level of education, apart from Awo, for Zik, it was still... So the point I just wanted to correct, because some people may listen to me and think, but in security circles, it's a national tragedy, even family tragedy. If you have a child that every time you are the father to go and rescue him, he can't stand for his right. So the point I was also trying to make in that issue was this, that even in the university, you don't have to fight. There are certain basic things. Okay, let's talk about maybe the issue of the lecturers. The result not getting to students, or lecturer not attending. You can write to the VC. If the VC did not take action, you seek his interview. And then if something is still not being done, you write to the NUC. There's the Committee for Education also, in both national and state, national, and Assembly and Senate. You write to them, and then you can, and there's no way those things will not be corrected. But so I just wanted to say that what the country really needs is active youth involvement, that the youth can be able to say, no, this thing cannot continue. The corruption cannot continue. Look at the budget in education. The youth can, the UN actually specify what should be spent on this. But in Nigeria, how much, they say education, how much goes to the award of scholarships to students or bursary? The students could actually ask, say, look, please, any government, okay, maybe this party, if you are going to come in and allocate just 5% of education budget to bursary and scholarships, will support you. Those kind of things, and you begin to interact. So please, I just wanted to quickly correct
now
that.
Now that you've done that, quickly going back to security issues, what are those strategies based on experience would you say should be, deployed, or the executive federal government of Nigeria should actually, leverage on to cope the security issues that are still lingering in the country?
Yes, actually, a lot can be done. Part of our problem was that we went to sleep, and because when you talk about Nigeria,
so you mean Nigeria was sleeping in the past 6 years?
No, even before the 6 years. Yes.
What a long sleep.
Yes, it has been a very long sleep. Yes, because when you talk about security awareness, most Nigerians, we're not. It's just even this problem now that is even creating a little bit of awareness. Most Nigerians did not understand what constitutes security threat. They did not even understand. Okay, maybe what I should just do. I have. Let me just. That's just. It takes me back to the issue of national interest. When I said that we went to sleep, you find out that the NIPS, there was an attempt to define, okay, it was a national policy conference to aggregate what constitutes a national interest. And then President Obasanjo, he came up with, they call it Security Strategy 2001. And they also articulated what, what constitutes a national interest. I'm starting from maybe the foreign policy conference in Nifkuru. They said quest for national independence, national cohesion, territorial integrity, security interests of individual Nigerian citizens, especially as regards food, health, and housing, and then the promotion of national ethics of discipline, self-reliance, and patriotism. This was, but then we now came, President Obasanjo, the national strategy was much more embracing. So because it identified the interests of all the ethnic nationalities, yes, that make up Nigeria. Why I'm talking about this is that, you find out that most of these interests were not addressed. Look at even the issue of food, the issue of health, the issue of you find that you look at Nigerians.
So they are contributory factors to insecurity.
Yes, because what happens is that, why I even went to that, is that when you now have a pool of young people that that are almost like they don't have a future, they are not even sure of what they are going to eat the next day, they can sell their mother. Sorry, they are willing to eat, they can even sell. So the point is that was when I said we went to sleep, was that the government itself, as if they did not realize the implication of leaving children, youths, to be desperate, to look forward, and they don't have a future.
But sir, talking about the youths that the government went to sleep on, that, don't you think it's deliberate? Because recently we saw the NSAS movement, the youths were agitating for fairness in against police brutality and certain things, and we saw what was meted out of them until today. That issue hasn't gotten closure. But then I want to take from the NIPS paper you just talked of. Number one is national independence.
Yeah.
Yes, truly we gain independence. But for that paper to encapsulate that, it means that Nigeria perhaps still has certain strengths. You mentioned the French operation in North Africa and other Francophone countries. And then you look across the globe, you see that there are certain enclaves that are within British jurisdiction, outside their domain, some within Francophone, that's French jurisdiction. Then there is the Lusophone jurisdiction and all of that. Then you see there are certain places where you have Russian influence and all of that. And then some people would say, we've heard stories of certain helicopters, unidentified aircraft, dropping weapons for Boko Haram in the depths of Sambisa forest, and a whole lot of this. Very quickly, for the want of time, I would like you to look at how we can actually truly gain this national independence and its effect on Nigerians' general security architecture.
Yes, yes, the national independence is not just political independence. Independent. Look at now, even the oil we are digging from our soil. We are now going outside to buy oil, and the impact on the economy is devastating, because so many other things, downstream and even up, that would have been a fallout of our processing, even the plum employment that would have come to our youth. It's not there. We go, how can Nigeria at this time be going outside? So even the independence, whether it is because these are some of the things that need to be urgently done. Reviving the economy is not just going to be talk. There's really going to be a focus on investment, especially starting even from the oil sector. What does it take us? The Shagari, the Gowon administration, and then later on, the Obasanjo himself and Shagari, they built a few refineries. How long does it take? The amount of money we use in importing oil is enough to set enough to set up several refineries. Okay, but then what you're also saying, the issue of independence, I just wanted to mention that aspect of independence. That's not just political independence. And even the political, there are some people who are even wishing now that the white man should come back and recolonize us. Yes. So sorry, there was another issue you said.
Yeah, I talked about the youths trying to stand up for themselves, and we saw how it was very
badly
handled.
Yes. you know, that was kind of reactive, spontaneous. That's why I'm talking about that. Even the youth, because I mean, like we have a number of registered youth bodies, like the nuns. The constitution permit them to be able to protest and all that, but the way you go about it, because you could actually, the nuns can get,
you know, a lot of people believe that nuns has become grossly politicized and infiltrated. So
yes, okay. You could actually get police protection for your, because you can act, even like I'm talking even about the local nuns here. I mean, they could. So the issue. Oh, sorry. The issue.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. The issue is. We'll let you land on that.
Yes. Okay. The issue I'm trying to talk about is that there are quite a number of things that the government needs to address. You know, that especially concerning the youth, and again addressing the issue of the political will to address corruption. I was actually hoping that the present president would do that, and then not corruption even in the military, corruption because it is really damaging so many things in our country.
Well, we would appreciate your time with us. We really appreciate your time with us and sharing your thoughts and giving in-depth insight as to what security situation is like and what it should be. We hope that the government would, you know, stand up to it. A lot of it boils down to political will.
Waking up from that very long sleep.
We hope Nigeria is no longer sleeping. And our independence, though in doubt, might be a mirage. I hope we truly gain independence in spirit and in truth. And those are issues that you've been able to clear the air on this particular edition. Thank you very much, Group Captain Uvo, for joining us on the show, and we would always look forward to another line of conversation with you. I hope you avail us the privilege.
Yes. No, it's always a pleasure to to be with you.
Thank you very much for being on the show.